In the name of God, this is session 5 of your morphology lesson. As you know, in the previous session, I talked about the definition of words and the empirical test for wordhood and the types of words. We talk about the phonological words, which the main criteria to distinguish this phonological word is stress. Then I talked about the content words and function words, which I said that nouns, words like nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are content words, but words like determiners, pronouns, conjunctions, and certain verbs like be, should, or must are the function words. And the last type of the words which I want to talk about it in this session is lexeme. What is lexeme? We need one more distinction which will allow us to tell grammatical words apart from lexemes. Let's say we run across the word dog and notice that we have at least 3 tokens of the word. Look at this example. The first one, dog, is a noun. Meaning is canine. The second one, again, dog, again is a noun. Its meaning is a hooked or U-shaped device used for gripping heavy objects. And the last one, again, dog, but it's a kind of verb, to follow closely and persistently. So these are 3 definitions of the word dog. Dog is the same, but the meaning and the part of speech may differ from each other. So these 3 words, as you see again here, excuse me, these 3 words sound alike. You see, dog, dog, dog. They are tokens of the same phonological word. Semantically, the meanings of 11.1 and 11c are related, you see here, and that of 11b is not. Despite the semantic relatedness of 11a and 11c, however, all 3 tokens can be said to have distinct meaning. When we want to distinguish among phonologically similar forms on the basis of the differing meaning, as in 11, we call each a separate lexeme. Okay, this one is a lexeme, again this is a lexeme, and again this is a lexeme. A lexeme is a word with a specific sound and a specific meaning. So this is the definition of lexeme. A lexeme is a word with a specific sound and a specific meaning. Its shape may vary depending on syntactic context. So thus we have dog, for example, and dogs, okay, in distinct contexts. Distinct grammatical word forms of the same lexeme, dog. We use the term paradigm to refer to the set of all the inflected forms that a lexeme assumes. So a lexeme is a theoretical construct. It is not a sound form, for example, dog, but rather a sign or set of signs which sound, form, syntax, and meaning all bound together. Because it stands outside any syntactic context beyond the one for which it is lexically specified or subcategorized, it is inherently unspecified for categories that are determined by context and expressed through inflection. Some linguists restrict the class of lexeme to the major lexical categories like noun, verb, adjective, adverb. So, for example, dog, a canine, and dog, a hooked or U-shaped device used for gripping heavy objects, happen to be homophone. Okay, their phone are the same, so we call them homophone or homonym. Okay, their names are the same. Words that sound alike but have unrelated meanings. Homonyms, this is the definition of homonyms or homophone. However, a word doesn't have to be a homophone in order to be or belong to a lexeme. All words either are lexemes or belong to a lexemes paradigm. So, for example, the words like rotate, moon, fast are all lexemes. In order to talk about lexemes, morphologists give them each a name, and by convention, they put these names in capital or small capital letters. The name is generally the form by which a lexeme would be listed in a dictionary, and for this reason, we call it the citation form. Okay, this is the form which we use in a dictionary. The citation form is useful, but it doesn't necessarily have any mental status. Across languages, the citation form of a noun is most often the singular form. The citation form of a verb, however, varies widely. In English, for example, it is the bare infinitive, like, for example, read or go. In French and Spanish, it is the infinitive, for example, to look. In Greek, it is the first person singular form, for example, I speak, like speak. In 11, in the previous example, each of the three lexemes had the same phonological shape but a different meaning. In 12, we see just the opposite, a single lexeme with more than one possible phonological shape. The verb look at the example. The verb look appears in several different forms but with a consistent meaning. You see here, I look, she looks, we looked, they were looking. All of these forms are distinct phonological words. You see here, they are different from each other for the simple reason that they do not each sound exactly alike. In addition, we can label them as different grammatical words because each plays a distinct grammatical role within a sentence. But at some level, these different words are all tokens of the same type. They all belongs to the verb look. You see, they mean the same thing, and no one would expect a dictionary to give them four, for example, separate entries. We must be dealing with a single lexeme, so we call them a single lexeme, but one that happens to be realized in several different forms depending on grammatical context. This example shows you that a lexeme is not a single form, but rather a set of forms, as you see here. So this is the definition of lexeme. What is a lexeme? As I told you, a lexeme is a theoretical construct that corresponds roughly to one of the common senses of the term word. Examples, for example, like book, eat, dark, or some other words. The second, criteria or properties or definition of lexeme, it is a sign or set of signs that exist independently of any particular syntactic context. The third one, it has a particular meaning or grammatical function. For example, a set of written or printed pages fastened along one side and they are between two covers, okay, like this one. The fourth one, some linguists restrict the class of lexeme to the major lexical categories like noun, verb, adjective, and adverb. And the last one, it is generally referred to by its citation for example, book or it, but its shape may vary systematically according to the syntactic context in which it is used. For example, one book, two books, or I'm eating, I ate. Okay, these are the definition of lexeme, which I talked about them in the previous part. So we have already said that in order to talk about lexemes, morphologists give them each a name, and by convention, they put these names in small capital letters. In reality, the name of a lexeme is much more than a name. In English, it also happens to be the lexeme's lexical stem. The lexical stem is the form of the lexeme that is most often used in the creation of new words. To illustrate what we mean by lexical stem, let's look closely at the lexeme, for example, go. Okay, this is one lexeme. This lexeme has 5 forms, 2 of them irregular, like, okay, look at this words, go, goes, went, gone, and going. Of these forms, go has a different status from the rest. Lexemes formed from go must often use it as their stem as opposed to an inflected form. You have probably heard the word churchgoer, you see here, but we do not have, church wenter. Okay, this is ungrammatical. Someone who used to go to church, likewise, there are go between, but not gone between. Okay, you see? So, it would be a mistake to overgeneralize and say that the lexical stem is always used in creating new words. We have some exception, compounds which we use other forms of the word. We could, for example, use the word went between and people would understand it. A quick glance at the dictionary reveals the form, for example, going over, going on, derived from the past and present participle gone and going. The last 2 examples of phrasal items. Have, the other example, have is the name of another lexeme that works the same way as go. It has several distinct forms, some of them irregular: have, has, had, and having. Only one of them, have, is generally used in forming new lexemes. For example, the haves and the have-nots is a common expression, but not, for example, had not. People who use not to have any money, this is the definition of it. So we generally do not make up words from the inflected forms has, had, or having, but we have some exceptions. Nouns, about the nouns. Nouns have 2 forms, singular, plural. The singular form is the lexical item. It is therefore the form that most often appears in compounds. For example, apple, core, not apples, core, or for example, boat, house, not boats, house. So this is only a generalization. We have again some exceptional form, so that you won't get away thinking that all languages work like English in having one lexical stem per lexeme. Consider the case of, for example, Latin. Latin may have more than one lexeme. So to summarize this part, a lexeme is an abstract object, not a single concrete word, but a set of grammatical words. Cross-linguistically, one of those words is generally privileged to be the lexical stem from which other words are formed, although some languages permit more than one lexical stem. However, in morphology, it is often referred to talk of tendencies than absolutes. Many phenomena are not categorical, but graded, So it is with the creation of new words from lexemes, occasionally, particularly in the case of phrasal items like has been, a form of a lexeme other than the lexical stem is used for creating new words. So this is the definition of lexeme. The 3rd type of words. The first one is phonological word, the second one is content word versus functional word, and the third one, the last one, which I talked about it in this session, is lexeme. The other part of this chapter talk about the inflection versus derivation. Once you understand the difference between words and lexemes, you can understand the distinction made by morphologists between inflection and derivation. So inflection involves the formation of grammatical forms, for example, past, present, future, singular, plural, masculine, feminine, neuter, and so on, of a single lexeme. The use of these grammatical forms is generally dictated by sentence structure. Thus, for example, is, are, and being are examples of inflected forms of the lexeme be, which happens to be highly irregular not only in English but in many other languages as well. Regular verb lexemes in English have a lexical stem, which is the bare form with no affixes, for example, the verb select, and three more inflected forms, one each with the suffix, for example, s, ed, and ing, for example, selects, selected, and selecting. Noun lexemes in English have a singular and plural form. Adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, and other parts of speech typically have only one form in English. As you can tell from the example of select given above, one way inflection can be realized is through affixes. So, further example of affixal realization of inflection can be found in the following box. Look at this box, example of words, inflectional morphemes. For example, about the nouns, wombat, wombats, ox, oxen, the verb brainwashes, digs, scaped, and raining. So these are the affixes which produce a kind of inflectional, if you call them inflectional affixes. What about the derivation? Derivation involves the creation. This is the creation of one lexeme from another, such as, for example, selector or selection from select. Compounding is a special type of derivation since it involves the creation of one lexeme from two or more other lexemes. In the discussion of non-separability above, we had many instances of compound, for example, doghouse, greenhouse, hot dog, deer tick, and the other examples, all of which are formed by combining two lexemes. Many processes can be involved with derivation. In the next chapters, I will talk about them. One question you may be asking yourself is how we distinguish inflection from derivation. This issue is addressed fully in the next chapters, but we give two criteria here. First, one, derivation generally results in a change of lexical meaning or lexical category of a particular word, while inflection does not. So derivation change the meaning and the category of the word, but the inflection doesn't do that. The second one is the application or non-application of inflectional morphology generally depends on the syntactic context. Okay, the inflection so depends on the syntactic context. For example, what is the subject of the verb? Is the noun singular or plural? While the application of derivation morphology does not. This is the second differences between derivation and inflection. You here in this box see the example of words plus derivational affixes. For example, noun to noun, New York, New Yorkies, fish, fishery, Boston, Bostonian, autobiography, vice president, or verbs to verbs, untie, resurface, pre-register, underestimate, adjective to adjective, grayish, immoral, subhuman, illegible, noun to adjective, hawkish, poisonous, soulful, iron-like, verbs to noun, discombobulation, acquittal, digger, you see, adjective to adverb, sadly, efficiently, you see here, they are the examples of the derivational affixes. So readers will come across the terms word formation and lexeme formation, both referring to derivation. in the morphological literature. So word formation or lexeme formation, these are both referring to derivation. We avoid the term word formation since it is used by some linguists to refer to both inflection and derivation, or to morphology in general. Just we use lexeme formation here. So this is the definition of derivational affixes. So as you see, we have two affixes in word formation. One is the inflection. We use this formation for for producing grammatical forms like past, present, future, singular, plural, masculine, feminine, and neuter, and so on. It depends on the syntactic structure. These are the example of these inflectional affixes. And the derivation is a kind of lexeme formation. Compounding again is a special type of derivation. You see here there are many differences between inflectional affixes and derivational affixes, but we talk about two main differences. The first one is derivation generally results in a change in lexical meaning or lexical category, but the inflection does not. And the second one is the application or non-application of inflectional morphology generally depends on the syntactic context. For example, the noun is singular or plural, while the application of derivational morphology does not. And we talk about some examples of derivational affixes. Here there are, here as you see, noun to noun, there is no grammatical changes, but you see there is some changes in the meaning, or verbs to verb. But here, noun to adjective, verbs to nouns, adjective to adverbs. You see here there are changes in parts of a speech. Nouns becomes adjectives, and verbs to nouns, and again here adjectives to adverbs. So derivational affixes, as I told you, may change the meaning, or may change the part of the speech of the word. This is the differences between inflectional affixes and derivational affixes. So in this session I talk about the last type of the words, lexeme. As you see, we have lexeme as a citation form we use in a dictionary. So this is a kind of type of words which I talk about it. And in the last part of this session I talk about the differences between inflectional affixes and the derivational affixes. So these are the differences between these two kind of affixes. I think it is enough for today. Thank you for your attention, everybody, and goodbye.